Did that print it out? Nope.
I would go to the up carrot by your, there it is.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry about the delay, everybody. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order.
Finally.
We're gonna rearrange things a little bit, here. After approving minutes, we're going to move to, approve the hiring of a new police officer and swear that person in. And then we're going to move the discussion of needed stormwater upgrades and the survey done by Barton Little Judas up after that. I'll have more to say. So first item is to approve minutes of our last meeting.
So moved. Second.
The corrections. Being any today. Need a motion, or I got a motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, oh, by the way. Jonathan Binkley is remote and he can participate because you can see him.
Because we can see.
And now he can see us.
Yeah, now he
Now
can
he
see
does.
us, so all is well.
Okay, we processed a new application, an application for new police officer. And, the committee and the chief made a recommendation that we hire a gentleman by the name of Colin Carroll. You want to add to any of
course I do.
this?
I always
You
do.
always do.
Always. So, in the interview, we were really impressed, with Colin. He is a volunteer fighter and is very community oriented and a team player. And we're really excited to recommend him, for the position and become part of the team.
Okay. With that, I need a motion to, move the hire.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, the next piece is that we will swear you in. Colin will begin the academy in a couple of weeks, I think, chief.
Begin the academy on August 14th.
And he'll begin work, in a couple weeks.
That's salary.
Salary, Mayor.
Whatever the beginning is for, probationary items. I'd have to look at the contract. We just approved a new contract.
Chief, no?
Yes, I can get it for you.
solemnly swear. Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of New York. And the Constitution of the State of New York. That I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary officer. That I will faithfully discharge the duties of probationary officer. According to the Act. According to the
You locked in, no?
He has to sign the book.
Yep.
too, so.
Oh, was that red? Yeah. I saw you over, yeah.
Did you folks want a better picture or you did? Sorry.
Family members.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bring the baby up.
Gotta get it.
Baby. You want to
You need to be in the picture.
whole family. Oh. Oh, yeah.
Being an officer is a family affair. And I say that with personal experience.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get you?
Thank you. You're good.
You've taken away the flag.
Are you gonna sign the book?
Thank you.
Thank you. You're stuck.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Now you give your notice and. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
And we did this on purpose first, so that there's no obligation to keep the baby here.
You don't have to stick around with
Okay, the next item, we're gonna move forward, just so that people don't have to hang around. We had an item on the agenda to discuss needed stormwater upgrades and the, survey done by Barton Latudas, last year. We, what I wanna do is do a public comment now on this subject, so that the public can comment, make any comment that they wish on the subject. Then after that, the board will discuss amongst themselves, how we wanna try to proceed. I've had communication with, several of you, in form of emails. I've received, a number of emails from people. So that'll all be part of the record. But, if anyone would like to make a comment at this time, we ask that you stand, state your name and where you live. And, let us, give us your comment. We'll give you 3 minutes to make a comment. After comments are done, then the board will discuss amongst themselves on how we would like to proceed based on the comments we've received and emails that we've received, which we view as a comment. And, well, yes, and we have a representative from, Martin LaJudas here, to listen and to, participate in our conversation when we talk about how we move on from here. So, if anyone would like to comment,
I have a question. Who is the representative?
he's from Barton and LaJudas, the engineering firm that, does, that did some of the preliminary work, looking at Cleveland and the water problems there, and did some preliminary work for us on how to address issues on the Judson Street drainage area. Judson, Cleveland, Goodrich, Farmer, Upper Judson, and how all the water moves. And how it comes together down at Court Street. And then ultimately to, the outflow down into the river. I think in the email, one of the emails I responded, and I provided some of the documentation that we had received. Back last year, we had some, I don't remember the dates right now, but one earlier in the year and then one, I don't know, maybe June and October, somewhere around there. So we've been, working on some of these things. And it's a process. So,
I'm happy to offer comments, and I can stand at the podium.
That would be ideal for Zoom. Thank you.
is that working now?
It's on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just careful of the cord.
Okay, it makes for an interesting stance.
and,
I'll state my name and my address.
yeah,
My name is Matilda Larson. I live at 25 Judson Street. My husband and my family and I, we've lived there since 2018. Our house happens to be at the intersection of Judson and Cleveland, where we experienced flooding on both sides of the street. What I want to do for you tonight is just to give you some firsthand experience about what that was like. A week ago today, there appeared to be two significant rain events, one around 1 o'clock, the other around 7 o'clock. And at about 1 o'clock, I went home to check on how things were going, and at that time I realized that Cleveland was flooded, so I parked along Judson Street and left my house and son. I found my 15-year-old son already outside with the rake at a storm drain in front of Mary Lawrence's house on Cleveland. When he was attempting to clear it, but he was operating as a geyser, so water was not flowing in, it was in the back coming out. You could see a stream of water coming in between Mary Lawrence's and Steve Mander's house and our neighbor across the street from Cleveland. Water was flowing down from Cleveland toward our property. And some of the storm drains there were a little bit clogged, some were trying to get water in. And there are two storm drains that I can remember at the intersection of Cleveland and Judson, and I got out, grabbed the rake, and I started clearing the debris out of both roofs, or excuse me, out of both grates. And water was going in, but was probably about 4 inches from the top. That was at 1 o'clock. After work, after dinner, between 6:40 and 7 o'clock, water came in again. And my son and I both went out again to try to see if we could clear the storm drains on Cleveland and the intersection of Cleveland and Judson. And it became quite apparent to us that the second rain event was worse than the first rain event. Water came up to the base of our garage. It flooded the front of our yard. It flooded the backyard, which I had never seen before. And at one point, looking at the storm drains in front of Judson and Cleveland, water was no longer going up in those drains. It was now just staying still. And that's when I knew something bad was happening. And a few moments after that, my son came out of the house and said, "Dad just called me and asked me to check the basement and it's flooded." And when I spoke with John the next day, because he was out of town, he asked Aaron, our son, "Where is the water coming in from?" And Aaron said, "It's coming in from everywhere." And at that point, when we opened up the door, there was about 20 inches of water. and DPW crew helped me get in touch with the fire department, who were already on scene. And they got one of those big, pumps to get the water out. We also had a couple of neighbors who dropped their pumps in, and so I had 3 pumps at one point, getting the water out as quickly as possible. And within the hour, most of the water was gone on the street. But there was quite a bit of damage in our cellar. We've had both plumbing and heating contractors come to our house. We have been able to get the water heater back online, but our furnace, it has to be replaced. And that's gonna cost about $11,000 for a new one replacement. I spent the next day, away from work, essentially clearing out as much as I could from the cellar. Anything that I could that was wood based that didn't need to be in there is no longer in there. Anything that is plastic and doesn't get them to stay in there. And so, we paid about $455 from the cleaning contractors. We've been given an estimate of $11,000 to replace the furnace. But my biggest concern is, I don't want to put a furnace in there if it's gonna be a part of the plan. Because we can't afford to do that. We just recently took out financing to re-roof the house, and probably many of you have noticed. And so we just took out some financing to take care of that. To have to deal with another significant expense that we weren't anticipating on, does cause financial stress. And that's all I wanted to share with you tonight, was some of the financial consequences that we had to bear as a result of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Matilda.
It's okay, I'll just go next. And we can move on to the other house. I'm sorry. Sorry. Thank you. It's good to see neighbors and friends on this committee and crowd here. And I really appreciate the fact that the fire department was there, the police department was there, DPW was there. I was not there. I was away in Chicago. Had a good reason, but I won't go into that right now. But it's good to know that we will take care of ourselves. I have a couple specific requests, and hopefully the engineer can help add some clarity to whether these things will work or not. But before that, I just wanted to state for your committee here, I'm a climate scientist. These events are academic to me. I've known that they will occur. I know they're gonna get worse. This particular hurricane formed late June off the coast of Africa. It quickly intensified. It got 10 to 30% stronger according to what's called attribution science. These are computer models that model the storm with climate change and without climate change, with heating, without heating. So it intensified very quickly, and it's so long-lived. It went all the way across the Atlantic. It hit Jamaica. Jamaica is still devastated. Houston still has people without power. And then it went straight up the middle of the country, went right up to Ottawa. And then on from there. So storms are getting more intense. We can expect more rainfall. They're getting more long-lived. And they're migrating further north. We know this with tracking climate change and what we know about the changes to our system. So I know we are a climate smart, at least we've registered to be a climate smart community. We have a sustainability committee here in Canton. We're somewhat on our way toward becoming an official climate smart community. I think that's very smart. I think we need to finish that work. That committee could also use some support, I guess, from this board if there is such a thing that you can do for them. But we do know that whole process I helped with, that whole process starts with documenting the impacts of climate change that we can expect. And flooding's there. We've known about this for several years. So this is something that we have to, this board has to take care of, has to embrace. It's right up there with clearing the roads of snow. From snow, it's with public health, safety, all these things. It has to be a similar type of an issue now, as we move forward. So I have two suggestions, that might work. As Matilda told me what happened and my son Aaron told me what happened to our house, it's pretty clear to me that our house was a check valve on the stormwater system. Because the water came in, yes, from everywhere. Aaron was saying it looked like the walls are bleeding, but it really came up through our stormwater system. There's a drain in our basement, and that's how it filled up so quickly. So the whole system was overcharged, and then it backed up into our basement through that system. So I'm wondering if we could install somehow backwater check valves in those hotspots, in the areas like Judson and Cleveland. We know it's gonna flood there again. This is a hotspot, probably in the report that you already have. I wonder if the village could help in some way to put in these check valves, so that when the water starts coming in the other way, boom, they close. I know the Popenhowers have one of those, at least Jason said we do, and maybe others do as well. And then the other suggestion I have is, at least for us, it would be great if DPW could help us. Is there any way that we can get 4 or 5, what's the term for topsoil cords? That's not called. And yards. Yeah, 4 to 5 to 6 yards of topsoil dumped in our front yard so I can build a berm to keep the water out. But, it's not only keeping the surface water out, we need to keep that storm water in the system out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a note for folks, I noticed that people on Zoom are straining to hear, so the closer we can speak into that mic, the better. Thank you.
Is that?
Okay, right up close. Right up close. I'm not very good at that microphone. My name is Jennifer Popenhauer, and I live at 12 Judson Street, which is right at the base of Goodrich and Judson. So we are at the other corner that basically is at the bottom of wherever it's raining, we're not raining. I would echo Matilda and John's statements in terms of our corner. We have it coming down, the water essentially comes down Goodrich Street. There are some drains on the Goodrich Street side. There's one in front of our driveway, and then there are 2 small little circle type drains on the sidewalks in front of, let's see, 10 and 14. When this water comes down, again, it comes up as opposed to going down. And so what happens is it comes water falling down our driveway to the point that there was a current. There was so much water that was coming down, there was a current. It then goes down the sidewalk, lands on our front lawn, into our basement, and into our neighbors. More water went into the basement next to us than in our basement. But we are also, because there's so much water coming down, it has nowhere to go, and it essentially ends up in our basement. Financially, we're very close to losing our freezer. We also have solar panel, electrical on the wall, right close to where that just is where the electrical panel is in my house. So in terms of safety concerns and potential damage and cost, but just in terms of stress level, every time it rains, we now panic that this is going to happen every time in our basement. We also have removed, are in the process of removing and trying to dry out our basement. We have a dehumidifier down there. We have tried to move as much as we can. We're still drying out anything that is somewhat porous and it's not going back down into the basement. I have a bit of a history at this corner. We've been living there for 25 years. And so in terms of following that has happened before. I wasn't able to get a picture, but I know that there is there has been a picture of our neighbors across the street in approximately 2002, 2003, 2004. I did some searching through the Plain Dealer. We did some microfiche up at St. Lawrence and could not actually find the picture. But of our neighbor who at the time was probably 10 or 11, and who was actually getting married this summer. She was floating down that Judson Street corner on energy.
So that was in, approximately 2003, 2004, give or take. I personally have documentation of events in 2018, 21, 22, and then 24. And so those are just pictures that we've taken, but consistently, when it rains, we are out breaking my husband goes out probably every single time to clear the drains. And so our concern, I guess, in terms of the picture, there is a lot of debris that comes down over the winter. We use sand and salt, a lot of leaves that come, and where does that stuff go? It goes right down the drains. And so, is there a blockage? Why is it pooling and causing so much problem? Has there been a camera down there recently to look at? Now, I know one of the documents that you sent, Dalton, did have pictures of that had been done, and it did indicate in some of those pictures that there was some blockages. And so I guess our question is, have those been cleared out? Is there a consistent, we know that this is happening. Is there every year at such and such a time, 3 or 4 times a year, clearing out these drains? Because we know that this is an area that is collecting water. It's not at capacity to begin with, and then when you get the debris in there, it makes it even worse. So, is that happening? Additionally, one of the things that happened at our neighbors, we have a shared driveway. There was a sinkhole that opened up because of all the water that was coming down. 9 5-gallon buckets of sand had to go in there to fill that. Where did that go? It did not go into our neighbor's basement. So where is that, all that silt had been filled before with rocks and sand and all sorts of things, and then it rains again and the sand disappears. Where is it going? It's got to be going somewhere. And so are those things creating blockages in, the space in here? The other concern, of course, is that the county drains into the same area. And are they doing anything to help with this? Because it's probably their responsibility. The rain comes off the roof. It goes onto their pavement, and it drains exactly into the same corner. It's additional water that is coming and exacerbating the problem. Last question, in terms of ours as a guest, we know that this is going to happen again. What can we do at the time that it's flooding? Because as people drive through there, it just, makes things worse. Every time a car drove by there, number one, it's a safety issue. There's public transit that goes through there. There's county traffic that's coming through there. People they don't slow down. The pictures that I'm standing there and they're driving as fast as they can straight through there. And that just makes the water go even more, into, besides being a safety issue. So what can we do when this starts to flood again to make sure that this area is blocked off and addressed? Because in terms of communication, our call to the police department was our best case scenario to get that moving, but it took several calls to get there. So what is the plan? Can this be, somewhere on the books that if so-and-so calls, or even we don't need to call, we just need to check this area if it's starting to flood, block it off. Can that be part of, the short-term solution to kind of mitigate for now, information? And I guess just the only other thing, John talked about some check valves. An engineer that my husband works for the county planning department, and he was talking to an engineer that suggested something called a duckbill check valve. I'm not sure if people are familiar with that. He did send an email to me about that. I'm happy to forward it on if that would be information that people would like. And it was something that wasn't just on like a house, it was on a bigger system that could be used to, again, kind of block things until the rest of the system or kind of redirect the system. And this is, I think so. Excellent. Anyway, and I guess the very last thing I'd like to say is thank you to the emergency services at DPW to, on the night that it was going on. It was a crazy night. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jen. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Raymond Conway. I live at 10 Judson next to Jen. My wife and I moved there a little over 3 years ago. I don't have a lot to add at this point. Everyone spoke before me, kind of everything pretty clear. I replaced one of 2 sump pumps in my basement for the second time in 3 years, and now I have to completely replace my furnace. It's my wife's dream house, but it's kind of difficult to want to keep living there. It's just like it's very frustrating. I got home from work, I work in Potsdam, got home a little before 6 that night, my wife was out of town with the kids at a musical. There's about an inch or two of water in my basement. At dinner, hung out with my dog, about 45 minutes later, there was 1.5 feet of water in my basement, and only one of the sump pumps was working. So I left to go get a replacement, ended up at Lowe's after stopping at a few other places. By the time I got back, the water was almost 5 feet deep in my basement. My furnace is completely destroyed. All those clothes that I was wearing are in the trash. And yeah, so twice in 3 years that we've lived there seems a little, unfortunately consistent. There's gotta be something we can do so this isn't an issue. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Ray.
My name is Paul Shane. I live at 16 Judson Street. I've been there 30 years. Seen this many times. I would say I'm actually, if I can use the expression, one of the lucky ones, and I believe it's only in part because of what 10, 12, and 14 Judson Street experienced. I had a new sump pump put in 2 months ago. During that time of rain, it ran almost continually, but I had a wet floor, but not the flooding. Although my backyard had flooding and there was a current of 4 inches deep running through the garage at one point. So I'm fortunate. But I do believe it's because these other places are absorbing so much of the water. I'm not a climate scientist, but my initial thought was barrel formed in the Atlantic, crossed across Mexico, hit Texas, moved up through Louisiana, up through the middle of the country, up to here. And when it reached Texas, I think it was a Cat 1. And still we experienced the amount of rain that we saw in a very short period of time. My thinking is, what happens when the hurricane comes out into the states on the East Coast, maybe the Carolinas, and finds its way into New York State much sooner and much more powerful? I do appreciate the information that was sent out, showing some of the possible plans for the future, and I do hope we can get to those plans soon. Thank you.
Hey, Paul?
Oh, one last thing. I did have one expense. I added a dehumidifier to hopefully dry up the rest of the basement. It's damp now. I don't want mold to go, but thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Fisher. I live at 15 Judson Street, so directly across from everyone on Judson's just spoke. I would agree, I'm also one of the luckier ones. My house is set back a little bit further and maybe arguably a little bit more uphill. So, you know, I don't have as much house damage, if you will, from the flooding that's occurred. But similar experiences with the folks that have spoken previously, echoing the currents, the volume of water, you know, my yard in the front and the driveway that's off of Goodrich was about 2/3 in water, if you will. So, you know, this water's coming to my house, might not be quite there in the volume that you have, you know, for other houses. But, you know, as everyone's been saying about the climate changing, I'm a strong believer of that, and it's, you know, evident at this point that it could get worse, it's going to get worse, and it's coming for my house next. You know, so I'm here to try and help everyone who's come before me, and myself, try and mitigate what is surely to come. I've only been in this house for 10 months. I've seen Jen and Jason out, you know, trying to get all the debris out of the grates in the past, just in those 10 months that I've been here, in the last couple of months specifically. I didn't really think I was buying, you know, quote unquote oceanfront property when I bought that house. But it was, you know, knee deep at the intersection of Goodrich and Judson, and that's just very unsafe for vehicles, pedestrians, property, everything that goes through that intersection. So, yeah, looking forward to what plans we have in place, and hoping we can get some support here to mitigate what's true.
Thank you, Jessica.
McCown, 65 4th Street, Canton, New York. I'm a civil engineer, and the last month I did bring up a petition for storm sewer on 4th Street. We had an awful storm early June, and a lot of people were flooded there, a lot of water in the basements. There's no storm sewer from, on 4th Street from State Street all the way down to Pearl and Judson Street. That's where your catch basins start. We've been getting water, in our basement ever since I was a kid, since they raised that road on 4th Street. And this past Wednesday, it was coming down like a river, right down our driveway, right down into our yard, sidewalk, and then eventually into our basement, the foundation. And, I just want to see, if you look at the, 4th Street in particular too, a lot of people, couldn't be here. My neighbor, I've got 4 inches of water in our basement. And then our neighbor had 4 inches. This is, Mrs. Robinson, her backyard gets flooded all the time. Same with the neighbor next to her. But I have a petition, I have a couple extra signatures out here I'm gonna give you, and I have some pictures of the basement and the water coming down the driveway and right into our front lawn and our basement. So appreciate it, the engineer will take a look at storm water on 4th Street. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We appreciate you coming tonight and, talking to us about what's happened to you. I'm familiar with what's been going on. I was actually there, when the fire department got called out, and I was in a bunch of other places in our community. When an event like this happens, it affects a lot more than just that drainage area. Some of the lower places on Riverside and things like that have really been inundated. Here, I will put these here. The pictures, several of you sent pictures to me. I have put them on a Google Drive so that shared with the board, so they can all see what you've sent to me, whether they're videos or pictures. Some view of some basements and things like that. We've shared it with the engineer from Barton Lake Judas. They have done some preliminary work, and I have passed that along to most of you. I didn't get it to all of you, but there was several emails that I received that I was able to pass that along to you in response. And the idea was that I responded one time, after I responded originally to Matilda, the next emails I responded to everybody. Mark may not have gotten it. I don't know, who else was shared. At any rate, we have done some preliminary work. And I do know that our superintendent has spent some time looking at the system. We did purchase a vac truck to make sure we were able to help clean some of the debris out of those catch basins. I don't know that anything has been videoed at this time or what has been. We know that this is probably gonna get worse, and we understand that there's a need for coming up with some solutions. Part of my concern, and Mark will have to, can speak to this. I don't know how big you gotta go in order to absorb, what may be coming down the road. He did some analysis of, 20-year storms, 25, 50-year storms, and how you address that. Part of my concern is that no matter what we do, there may be just some storms that we can't accomplish, drainage that we'd like to see. Some properties are lower than the road, and not just a little bit, substantially. I think that causes some problems. There may be some options for some check valves and drains, as you've suggested. But I think we have to leave it to some engineers to give us some ideas of what's gonna work the best for us over the long haul. It's gonna take some pre-engineering, a contract to produce a pre-engineering report. They will have to, as part of that process, they review what is needed in our community. Give us some cost estimates. Try to find some funding sources for this, because you know, we have some initial numbers that put upgrades at about $4 million to do some of this work in that area. And those are very rough numbers. I don't think they've been refined. That has a substantial impact on the taxpayer in our community, to the point of over 13.5%, just based on some rough numbers we've put together. We also know that there's a lot of talk about resiliency as climate change approaches us, and we're really hoping that there may be some monies available to help us mitigate some of the expense to do these things. At the same time, it's not just this area that is affected by some of this. The other thing that concerns me is the absolute massive flow of water we had in our sanitary sewer system. We at the peak, we were running over 9 million gallons a day. Now I realize that isn't sustained, but we were registering over 9 million gallons a day. And we shouldn't be getting that kind of water into a sanitary system as a result of rain. Some of you are affected more than others, and more frequency than others. So we're cognizant of that. I don't know if there's anything else you want to contribute that Mark has to say. Mark?
Good evening. Thank you everyone for allowing me to come and listen in. My name is Mark Budash. I work with Barton and the Judas. As mentioned, I'm a vice president with the company. I've been doing this work for 24 years. So I'm very familiar, and unfortunately, this is a common occurrence in a lot of municipalities throughout the state and throughout the country. This is not new to Canton by any means. But it is unfortunate. It's sad to hear, just some of the stories that were told tonight. It's sad to hear the impacts that it is to the residents, to property damage, and the costs that are attributed to that. So we, as the mayor mentioned, over the last year, we were contracted to kind of look at 2 different studies. And I can, after I get through this, I can bring up a couple of maps on, share it on my screen. I don't know how visual it will be to everyone, but, so the first one was to look at Cleveland Avenue. There's, as part of that study, we kind of isolated Cleveland Ave in itself. We looked at, knowing that the drainage is off the road at this point, it's running in swales, and haphazard ditch lines, along the frontage of the residential properties up and down that section of Cleveland. And what we have proposed to do to make improvements there is kind of twofold. One is to curb, Cleveland Ave, and bring the stormwater that comes down the road and from the road and confine it to the roadway itself. With that, we would be putting in a whole new system along Cleveland Ave, along that curb line. This will pull the drainage off of the properties. I'm not saying, without looking at every individual property, which is something we would need to do, in the future as part of this. But what it would do is it would keep the water in the road, not allow water to release over the curb into the residential properties, into the front yards, and ultimately basements or backyards. We would size the system accordingly based on standards that the DEC and the New York State Department of Transportation has put out there. We would space the catch basins up and down the street, that the spread, which is the width of the water flowing down the curb line, that it would not encroach into the travel lanes themselves. So the spacing would be tight enough that, you know, that water would never get so wide. We would tie in some possibly some drainage from yards or swales that are cutting drainage easements that are cutting through properties. We would tie that into the system. And then ultimately that system would be tied into the Judson Street system. This would include improvements at the intersection of Judson and Cleveland itself. Another, you know, part of that, which has nothing to do with storm drainage, but we're also looking at sidewalks within that corridor, also similar to the other streets of Goodrich and Farmer. That this would also take the water from the backside of the sidewalk and run it back to the street. So that's more water and more drainage area that will not be going back to the properties. So really we're looking to confine, like I said, confine this water to the street and then collect it within the system and keep it in the system. So the pipe sizes would be sized appropriately. For this system that, or what we designed both of these studies for, is a 10-year storm, which is common practice. We did look at, as the mayor mentioned, we did look at 5, 10, 25, and 50-year storms. Obviously, as you go up, those storm pipes are going to get larger, which comes to a point that you might not be able to size a pipe big enough to contain all the water. What we've seen over the last several days, I've seen it here in Syracuse and Baldwinsville, where I live. We're talking 100-year storms. We're talking storms that you're just never going to design for. But what we need to do is do our best to mitigate that type of storm. And unfortunately, you know, as everybody's mentioned, it's only going to get worse, you know, coming down through the years, unfortunately. So that was kind of the first study. That was, it was a preliminary, you know, drainage or preliminary design, kind of reconstructing Cleveland Ave, putting curb in, putting sidewalk in, redoing the entire road full depth, making sure that the drainage sub base under the road is correctly put in, under drain system along the curb. So water, once again, will get into the system. The price tag of that, you know, preliminarily, we did it, like I said, last year. Prices of materials are only going up. We're actually somewhat kind of seeing it leveling out now, but the price tag of that was, I believe, approximately about $1.2 million to complete that work. So we then entered into an agreement to look at the overall Judson corridor, the drainage corridor, then ultimately the outlet in the Grass River. So we basically started at the high point of Judson and then worked our way down the entire length of Judson down to Court Street, and then ultimately to to that discharge point. What we found is that the system is undersized. You're seeing mostly 15 and 12-inch storm pipes that are along Judson. We're looking at possibly needing 24 to 30-inch pipes through there to contain that. The catch basins are very small. The drainage grates are quite small. So we'd be looking at much larger grates to make sure that we capture that flow along the curb line so we don't get any bypass flows. And really, we looked at upsizing the complete system all the way down to the outlet point at the river. Really, I think we proposed 18-inch pipes all the way down to, I believe, Farmer. And then from Farmer all the way down to Court Street, I believe we're at 24-inch to 30-inch. And then 30-inch continuing down to the outlet point. The system actually breaks up and cuts through several different properties coming off of Judson. So it kind of breaks into two systems. But ultimately converges back to that one outlet on the Grass River. So answering, you know, some of the questions that were kind of put out there, sand and salt are a big issue. Debris is a big issue. It's good to hear that a vac truck was purchased by the village, because that is, even if you put in a new system, maintenance of that system is going to be key through the years. Keeping those top grates clean, looking at the possibility of putting sumps in the bottom of these catch basins to catch the debris that does go into the catch basin, but then still allows the water to flow to the pipes and to the inverts of the pipes that are in the catch basins. You know, I'm talking maybe a foot, maybe even 2 feet of sump, which will allow that material to build up and then ultimately be vacuumed out at, you know, whether it's a, you know, biannual or every, you know, in the fall and the spring, to clean those out. The pipe sizes at the width or the diameter of 30-inch and 24-inch are become very difficult to clog with very much small debris. So that should take care of those issues. Right now, the sand and salt's going in the system. There's no doubt about it. Leaves are getting on top of the catch basins. And that, you know, that's something we would all, you know, look to, you know, as we design, if we move forward with the design of the system, that's what we'd be looking to make sure we can improve on. The check dams that were mentioned, or the check valves that were mentioned, that is something that can be done with water coming off of properties. I'm not 100% sure all of the connection points that come into the Judson that are private connections or even backyard connections, sump connections, and all that stuff. That's something we would have to research. And maybe it's a, you know, conversations with the property owners moving forward. But there is check valve systems that can be used. But I hesitate to use a lot of that because, once again, as much as it's stopping water from getting into your basement, it's also confining water getting out of the system. So the duckbill system is a very simplistic system, but it does work. So that's definitely something that can be discussed with the village. Somebody mentioned the county and the county property that's at the end of Judson. We actually have a contract that we just actually signed an agreement a couple weeks ago to look at their system also, to see how it ties into Judson, see what their system looks like under their parking lot and under their facilities, and possibly look at storage under the pavement itself, under the parking lot, very large storage systems where the water can go in and it will be a slow release. The issues come in all of these systems is it's not the amount of water that goes in the system, it's how fast the water gets to the system. So if we can contain that water, that first flush, if you would, of water, and store it and slow release it back in the system, that's only going to help the system and the outfall down at the river itself. So there is a good opportunity. Like I said, we're just getting started with that. We are going to set up a meeting. Tim and Anna and I have been talking about setting up a meeting with the county to get both the county and the village together to create a larger project, a larger view of this entire system. And then ultimately is, you know, looking for funding. The mayor mentioned there's hazard mitigation monies that are out there. We actually just went through the process of getting the village to approve the county's hazard mitigation plan, which is a plan that actually Barton and LaJudas developed for the county previously. So with the village adopting that, there is monies out there that can be looked at, especially for the system around Judson. We also would be looking at some green infrastructure money or some resiliency money for the county facilities. Green infrastructure is a great thing. It's just not good for a linear system like Judson, where water can get in the ground and make things worse for the properties itself. So green infrastructure money is really not the way to go for, and that's conversations that we've had. But there is multiple areas of money within the state and federal government that we can be looking to, especially now that we have designs, preliminary designs done, preliminary drainage analysis done. that we could use for, obviously estimates and to show that, the village is working towards, making these improvements and mitigating some of these issues that are out there. The price tag, for Judson itself is pushing $2.7 million, I believe it is $2.75 million. Hefty price tag. Once again, it's a very rough number. It's just looking at it from a 10,000-foot view. But it really gets into the needs of catch basins, the needs of the pipes themselves, the size of the pipes and all that stuff. So, and I guess I think there's one other item that the Court Street. Ann and I were talking the other day about doing a similar study for the Court Street system, which would extend all the way up to the State Power Street intersection, all the way back down to Judson. I think, a member of the public mentioned that there's only really catch basins on the southern end of Court Street. Which is, we did include those in the Judson Street system, but we have not looked at the drainage areas that come into Court Street. There's been discussions of possibly increasing some of the drainage areas between Goodrich and Court Street itself. So that's, something that we'll be talking to the village here really quickly here to kind of commence a quick drainage analysis similar to Judson and Cleveland to look at Court Street also. So I don't know, Anna, I guess I would leave it up to you if you want me to bring up, any maps, mayor, maps or anything, but if everybody's seen the documents that were emailed out, it'd probably be easier for them to read that. And I would offer that if anyone has any questions regarding those, please share my contact information. If the village is good with that, I have no problem entertaining any calls, emails to assist the village in answering any questions. The notes from this meeting, I'd like to get a copy of it because I did have a hard time hearing some of it. I got a lot of the addresses, which the addresses are on here. They make a lot of sense because they are on the south side of Judson. So you have all that water coming off of Goodrich, Farmer and Cleveland, and it's shooting right down to your property. You're kind of the end of that system. It's unfortunate, but the improvements that we're proposing in this preliminary analysis will work wonders to improve the issues that you have out there at this point. So,
Thank you, Mark. Board?
So I guess I would just add a couple of things. With respect, Mark mentioned the sidewalks piece of Cleveland. We were hoping to receive that grant, which would have allowed us to begin working on that project, but we were not awarded that grant. We found out a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, that's a piece of the puzzle. I guess, first of all, I would just say, I feel for you, I would not, appreciate needing to replace my furnace at any point, or even deal with multiple sump pumps. So I am sorry that this is the reality of where we are. Hopefully you see and feel encouraged that we are trying to come up with a solution to be able to address the issues there. I think by the time we, I think our sort of conservative estimates, have us in the $4 million range. And the way that, money and funding works, that would be a hit on our general fund to the best of our understanding. We wouldn't be able to use water or sewer funds for this. And so that's a barrier to just doing the project and getting it done. And so, we're looking, like the mayor said, at, okay, what would the tax increase be? What is it that we would need to do to be able to fund the project? And that's why we've really been pursuing find the grant money to take the pinch out of it, to be able to get it done.
As we talk as a board, I mean, the first step is we need to engage an engineering firm, Barton LaJudas, to provide us with a preliminary engineering report that will define everything that we want to accomplish. Then they've been very helpful with our sewer project to come up with, funding.
Yeah.
And, grant applications, they handle a lot of that and they search those out. Those are gonna be important. And then if we can get even 0% financing, it makes a huge difference. We've done that for our sewer project. So, these are the type of support, this is the type of support we get from, an engineering firm like Barton LaJudas. They are, as he said, going into, some work with the county. I think the county, the way the county parking lots drain, I think have an impact on this. Especially the parking lot, behind social services. That,
the street, the other side.
well, yeah, but the problem is it all comes together down there on Court Street. And if that's the bottleneck, and I provided that with the map, so you could see how the water moves down there. It comes down, Upper Judson comes down, then cuts through, private property. And that line cuts right through the center of the county court, social services parking lot. And then comes together with the lower Judson piece and everything else that feeds off of that. It comes around before it goes to the outfall at the river. And it all comes together on Court Street, right there at that parking lot. And really, that's a bottleneck. And if all the pipes are undersized, all the way to the river, that's where I believe we're having a lot of problems. So what's coming off of Upper Judson and down Judson has an impact on what's going on your, on the piece that comes off of Cleveland, Goodrich, and then Lower Judson. So the board's intention, and that will be up to the board to decide, if we're gonna contract with the company to provide the reporting, that we need to move forward. And that's part of the process.
Could we?
In a short term, there are probably some things we can make
That's,
sure
oh, that's
my
right.
question.
that
My
we,
thing was-
I got a
You know,
couple of things, yeah.
calling the fire department, the police department, or working something out, we'll work out with the chief on, paying attention to what's going on that street. There may be opportunities to shut it down as necessary, so that people aren't driving through there. The water got pretty deep down there the other day, and, we ended up shutting the street down. But the massive amount of water we had, and we were lucky because if you went down to Lowville, 11 inches of rain running down the side hills there, it was devastating. We had 4 inches of rain that we measured at the sewer plant, and we had all we could do to handle that. And I was all over the village that time, so the board will, we will develop some plans and work with the chief and the fire chief and try to come up with some solutions in the short term, and then we have to have a long view. In my opinion, go ahead.
Just that, can we work even with Barton and Judas and come up with the short-term things? I mean, it needs, and we need to really do the big thing, and that takes a lot of time, but there can be a few things, and we need to come up with of those things where it's more formalizing when we use the back truck and clean things out. The part about coordinating with emergency services, I just, the list of the short-term things.
And potentially some of the draining.
So there's, we can have those conversations, and it's gonna take a little bit of time to.
Well, nobody's gonna have it tomorrow, I agree, but,
Yep.
but I'd like to see us work towards that with
Yeah.
some expertise.
Yep.
Too,
Yeah. And
in the short term.
and I fully support that, and I appreciate, the updates on the work that we intend to do with the county. I think that putting a basin underneath that, parking lot, fascinating to me, love it. If that is even a possibility. In full disclosure, I'm with all of you. I've got a $5,000 bill to replace my, basement carpet, because I got flooded too. So please know that we're taking this seriously, and we've been working on this, or we've been talking about this for well over a year. So we're working on it, but I do think that, you know, I'm with Barb that the short-term solutions, if we can mitigate any of this, you know, prior to spending, you know, $5 million on fixing the problem, which is what the goal is for sure. Yeah, I just want you all to know that my sympathies are with you, because I'm right there with you. And I got a garage full of stuff and a dumpster coming on Friday. So, so again, I appreciate, Mark being here and being able to have the in-depth conversation so that you all understand the work that's being done.
Ask a question.
Well, we don't do questions and answers during this period. What do you have in mind?
Just wondering who's looking for funding. Do we have capacity?
The funding will be, part of what we contract with an engineering group. Yes. That's how that's worked, and that is.
That's how we applied for the TAP grant too.
And as I said in my comments, that is part of what we do when we, sign a contract. Board?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll keep being persistent at, you know, we'll see what we can do in the short term and, you know, we'll keep at it to try to get to where we need to be with the whole system.
So the plan is some emergency services, communication to make sure we're all on the same page with the chief, the fire chief, and, that there's a response plan is needed. That's short term. Any suggestions Barton or Judas has for short term solutions will be, researched. We will be talking to them about a contract to, do a preliminary, engineering report that will really refine some of the back of the notepad, calculations that they did originally.
And I would just add the one last thing, you know, the money that we need, right, sits with the state and the federal government. And I would imagine, giving the fact that, we, you know, these last several storms in our state, this is gonna be a big topic of conversation. And so, you know, some advocacy to our state, representatives in terms of the resources that our local municipalities need in order to be able to do these kinds of projects. That would be helpful. You know, we have these pictures, we can be making our representatives aware, but, hopefully that's something that our residents can do too.
We appreciate you being here and,
Yeah.
you know, vocalizing the situation and the concerns that you have.
Sorry, I just, in terms of communication, the email on, your document you sent us, but this report was fantastic, just so that we know. How can we going forward keep up on what you guys are doing, so that we feel like something happened?
Come to a board meeting. You know, it'll be on our agenda, on a regular basis. I will keep it on the agenda. So you can do that.
Follow up with the minutes.
You can, you know, follow up and with any one of us to see where we're at. Generally, you know, I'd be the contact and I spread it around. That's the best way. You're welcome to be here. Our meetings generally are the third Wednesday of the month at 6:30. The agendas are online. And we have a new website. Look there, see what the agendas are, what's on the agenda.
The minutes are online.
The minutes will be online. So, you know, these type of things will be on.
Just a couple of questions for clarification. Milestones that are mentioned with Mark, when is this negotiated contract gonna be? I mean, I would like to know a timeline to help me feel better about my investment that we got to do. So we're doing what we can to protect our dollars. So I would just like to know, you know, what is the anticipated timeline for these next steps? I know you're gonna come up with some deliverables, but if Mark could help come up with, you know, when are we gonna hear about these things?
I would say that our next board meeting, we will have, information from them that we can act on. It doesn't take them long to put together a proposal, to move forward. Then it's a matter of us, approving it as a board.
We've been working in the firm for a number of years.
We know them, they've worked with us on our sewer reconstruction project. We have a $13.5 million project going on there. So that's my answer. And come to a board meeting, we're happy to have you here at a board meeting. Did you have something to say, Wayne?
I was just going to point out, as you all know, that it also depends on, when the different civils. And availability of funds. No, I'm just talking about the short-term steps.
Yeah, short-term steps, we're gonna, look to a contract with Barton LaJudas. We're going to, have conversations about emergency services to make sure we're all on the same page. I would say, during the day, if you were to call anyone, you can call the clerk's office. Can't reach anybody at the clerk's office because they have everybody's number. Yes, you do. But if you can't get them, call the police department or call the fire department. 911, tell them, the road's flooding, your basement's flooding. And fire department comes out. It's appropriate to shut something down, we do. And they're there to help. We bring all sorts of things to help at least get the water out. And I will tell you, during that event, we were all over the village dealing with problems. And a lot of the problems were just coming off of, a hill or weren't necessarily street problems, they were other problems.
Would it be appropriate to ask DPW to dump a bunch of topsoil in my office like I do?
We have to have a conversation about that. See, I don't know that that's, I'm not gonna say, no, it's not a possibility. I'm not gonna say absolutely we can do it. We have to have a conversation about that. How that would look and how that would happen.
We don't pay.
Okay. We will move on with the rest of the next parts of our meeting. Thank you for coming. There won't be anything with this discussed further tonight, so our discussion is here. Then we'll have it on the agenda for our next meeting. And you're welcome to be here. We'd happy to have you.
And just know this is a priority in terms of figuring out what a short-term solution would be.
August 21st.
Thanks, everyone.
Is the date.
August 21st.
Yep. Thank you. You're welcome.
If you all come, we'll come down here again.
It's cooler. I was gonna say, it's nice and cooler.
Huh? Yeah, don't slip. Okay, let's move on. Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
My pleasure. Thank you. Everyone have a good evening.
We'll be in touch.
Yep, not a problem.
Okay, we'll move on with the department head reports. Let's see. Partridge Run is there and nobody's here from Partridge Run. They've had a wet year.
We all.
Let's see. Aha, superintendent. How you doing, Tim? Anything to add to your report or?
No, I didn't get this out to you guys until later today, and I apologize for that, but, I did add on there a little bit of documentation about that storm event that I got from DPW and from our wastewater department. So you see the quick letter from each, and, specifically, wastewater, Mike mentioned it. Our pumps were running close to max capacity at that point, so. that's probably something that we're gonna have to start looking into as well. Is checking on residents that are, pumping into the sanitary sewer and out of storm, right? And is there an option that it could go into storm drain? Some maybe not, because there's not system in front of their house, but, we don't want to see high flows like that down there. That's not good.
Just for context, what's normal range versus what we had?
We're 10 times higher.
Thank
That's one.
Yep.
Like 1 million gallons a day,
Mhm.
and that was almost 10.
Yeah, that's what I needed.
So, you know, with that storm, everything got saturated the first rainfall,
And then,
so then it's completely
Oh.
off thereafter.
We measured down at the sewer plant, just a little under 4 inches up on State Street. Gentleman has a rain gauge up there, he measured 4 inches. Very short period of time,
I saw it from first.
so.
I promise.
So other than that, the only thing I didn't add on there is we had the outfall, sewer outfall was inspected, and it was part of our sewer project. So it's quite a bit involved in doing that, but it was inspected, and I believe we're gonna be able to reuse it. The original was installed 30 years ago, still looks like it's in great shape.
That's a win.
Kind of happy about that.
There we go. That's odd.
Unusual and great.
Yeah.
Anything else for Tim?
Tim, I just had a quick question. Only because it pertains to snow, but I looked at CG had a track sidewalk plow. Would there be any sense in looking at trading in the current one we have for a good price and buying the new one by chance?
Yeah. That was kind of what I would be planning on doing.
Didn't know if like ours was totally kaput or if we're trying to trade it in while it's got some usable life. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it still has good usable life. So, I mean, we're talking at least another year out, year and a half out. But I'm just trying to get some preliminary numbers, obviously look at different uses for it, other than right now, the current one is about $160,000 machine, and all it does is plow snow on the sidewalk. The equipment I listed on here that I demoed the other day, you can put a mower, that boom mower on it, which would be very helpful out on Remington Trail and, you know, multiple other locations. So it could be used during the summer. There's a pavement milling head for it. Right now, we borrow the counties that we could use as well on this piece. So multiple uses, obviously therefore it ends up being even more money, but. And, yes, we're probably, I'm hoping somewhere in the $50,000-$60,000 trade range.
Nice.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Our dog catcher, report. He, looks like he keeps busy in the village on occasion. It's nice to see that he makes it through the village in response to calls. Let's see, village clerk, you're next.
Not a lot to add. I did, get a report today regarding our new website. And we've hit 10,000 users on our website.
Well,
So I thought that was views, I should say views. So I thought that was excellent. We've also been defended against 127 possible
threats, how about
So
that?
I thought that was interesting information.
Cybersecurity is a thing.
Yes. Been busy collecting taxes and now water and sewer. Did want to mention water and sewer are getting a lot of calls as we replace water meters. So we just sent out a new billing recently. People are complaining because their bills are higher. And 99% of the calls we're getting, the readings are correct. So we feel that the old meters were not gauging, working properly. The new meters are actually monitoring.
Efficient.
Yes.
Well, the other neat thing about the meters is when somebody complains that they have a high bill, well, And they can look at a 90-day history and see if there's a leak.
Yes,
So it's been kind of idle.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that, sorry, so.
no, that's right, yeah, that is true, because we had somebody call and they said, hey, they had a leak from April 15th to June 2nd, and then they fixed it. So then it stopped, so they said,
Okay.
oh, yes, we remember that now. So,
Yeah, it's neat, you can see hour by hour data.
yeah, so it's
Hour
nice.
by
Mhm.
You do not want to see my house.
I would say get it on there for whoever.
So those
that
are for the
hour
new,
shower.
those are for the new meters.
So if you're out, if your toilet's running overnight,
Yes.
Yeah, if you don't show zeros in the middle of the night, it's probably.
Where's the showers?
It's all good.
okay. Economic development, Lee.
I don't have a lot to add, on this plan, a couple of things, the local planning committee for the Near Forward project met again on the 25th of June, and the open call for projects is now live, since the 26th. Proposals are due by July 31st. I've listed some of the office hours here, there's one session left. The next meeting is scheduled for, I think, August 13th. But with that, we're also looking for smaller projects to support a municipal application for a small projects fund. So, there are a couple opportunities to, express interesting projects there.
That's projects under $75,000, right?
The small ones are under some of the smallest, right? Willow Island is about ready, although we heard, that the final piece of the benches and, picnic tables are delayed again from the manufacturer. So, I'm going to update on when those are due, when you're wrapping that up in the next couple of weeks.
It's supposed to be today.
Today,
Yeah, he called me right back after and said, oh, they're coming in today. So that's good.
consolidated funding applications open, there's a resolution will further down your agenda. For an LWRP application, your town, you're also talking about, I believe, later. Those are kind of the big things right now that we're.
Anything for Lee?
A lot going on, thanks.
We're good.
Okay. Tim Nolan, oh,
Well, I have a pretty quiet month. Thursday, things about. Not everybody have any questions?
there being none, we will move on. Cindy,
Hi, good evening. By the way, that's not my house. This is the virtual picture of the house. Nice, though. Okay, as far as my report, I've been doing a lot of data collection. I got an assistant, Christy Decay, and we finished up the Village of Rensselaer Falls this past month, and the final row came out, so now we're working on 2025 assessment row. And as far as the Star Credit, there's a direct deposit. If you want your check direct deposit, you have to go on the state website and sign up to have your check direct deposit. And that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions?
no questions, thank you, Cindy.
Okay.
Let's see. Recreation. Hi,
No, what's going on?
you had a little flood, didn't you?
Well,
Okay,
but yeah, everybody, let's hear, just a couple things, so, swim lessons are going well. Session 1 finishes this week, session 2 starts Monday. We've been over at Sioux Kansas, worked out pretty well. A little bit smaller pool, but it worked out well. Got our equipment sale, did pretty well. It's kind of neat because the new summer open recreation program that I started. I've been planning it since I started this position, because I really wanted to be sustainable. And so those funds from the music food sale, those get put back into the, open recreation. So kind of the wash, all we do is kind of take it out. It's sustainable. It's been really fun so far. This was our first week. The first day was a little nerve wracking as we waited for the first child to show up. And of course, it was one of our staff members' brother that's showed up. But no, the first day we had, 8 kids in the morning. I think we had 6 in the evening. But today we had 16 this morning. So
Nice.
every day we're adding some more. I think just because it's new.
Yeah.
A lot of it is word of mouth. I've noticed it because somebody comes and all of a sudden they bring their neighbor or they bring their friend, and so it's really good. The kids are having a blast that are coming. I'm still waiting for the adults to show up. They haven't showed up yet. So far, I think we've been a date night drop off at night. But no, it's been fun. Everybody's had a lot of fun. You see the list of attendants that we're hiring. They've been fantastic. They're having a blast too. The program is really about the staff also. Give them a job that means something. And I mentioned it the first day, didn't even realize they were not on their phone 4 hours. They didn't even realize it. So that was good.
That's amazing.
Flooding. Kind of glad that our residents left that were here. So I feel kind of rudimentary talking about this. But I think it's important to note because yes, our stormwater goes into the Grass River. This is not an exaggeration. In 24 hours, that river went up 10 feet.
Yeah.
And I'm upstream from the. It was insane. I was in a kayak in the river. Afterthought, I was a complete idiot, but you know, I saved the line. I almost tipped over. I had a life jacket on. We secured the dock, the floating docks. Steve Smith in Town Highway, he was fantastic. He's eating dinner when I called him. And he came out with a loader, 3x3 foot concrete chute. So it's like, we gotta do something because mainly, one, I didn't want to lose our swim dock as Ryan and I watched the 4th tree hit it and it was starting to move. I didn't want to lose it down the river. That I know we rescued it once when you were in high school. Down the bend in the river. I, 1, did not want that to happen, and 2, I did not want it to run into our $50,000 kayak launch. Because that would have been devastating. Kayak launch was really fun. So we were able to at least anchor it. Again, risk my life out there. I had to get a kayak to get to the dock. Okay, that's how high it was. Because we were closed Wednesday because of the rain, obviously. Thursday morning, I knew it did not open because we were flooded. It wasn't at capacity. But we were checking it all day, and the amount of water that came through that river from noon to 6 o'clock was astronomical, because we went from, okay, we're all right, to, oh, it's not, we have a problem. Luckily I checked on it before 10 percent. But yeah, it's good to know as we're, you know, with residents and everything, that the river is a big factor as well, to make sure that we take that into account. Because that river fluctuates unbelievably. So 24 hours before the flooding was bad, the water level was at the bench seat of our float dock. So I know our rec committee, you guys know where that is. It was low. The water is back down there already. Like it's amazing how quick it comes up and goes down. It's amazing amount of trash that comes through. We had 4 trees come down the river. We had 4 whole trees that were in the dock. Like it's you know, the critiques that I have gotten in the last few days are not pleasant, that I haven't responded. But that's the biggest thing, is that people need to realize flooding is bad, but current and debris and it's dangerous. And yeah, that river is a dangerous place to be at certain times. But I think it is important to know our sewer system or wastewater system and how it works with that river. It's really important to take care of our village, because without a resident, I don't have a job. We need to do all of this. But yeah, so we're working hard to get that done. We have the semi back to where it was. We're still missing one metal pipe. We're gonna have a couple lifeguards come out tomorrow to try to find it. The sewer department lended us their giant magnet that they use in the ponds. So we're using that to assist us. But yeah, we're gonna have a couple lifeguards come out and see if we can help, get the last boat out. We're waiting on a few, floats, cause we lost them, that we have to put our swim lines in. We are hopeful to be open next weekend. Fingers crossed. The biggest thing is once we get everything back together, we have to be inspected by the department. But our representative that I work there is fantastic, and I've gotten penciled in for next week, so as soon as we're ready, I can give her a call, and hopefully we can be there. The main thing is the dock, because it did withstand some damage, so as safely as we could back the other two.
Some of the foam underneath the dock, I'm convinced is down on the island.
No, I know who owns that. It's one of my workers, their family owns it.
No, there were pieces of foam floating in
Oh, we
the,
don't have phone.
you don't have foam on,
No.
oh, underneath the dock, wait,
No.
Somebody else's phone.
Somebody else's foam.
There was a lot of foam, there was a lot of coolers, there was a lot of debris coming down that
Yeah,
river.
there was a lot of break.
But yeah, but yeah, we were very fortunate,
Yeah.
Cal Highway helped us out before, Leon from DPW stopped by afterwards to help us stop situated back over. Cause without, not everybody knows I'm 50/50, so it's nice to share the wealth. But it's nice to have their help, because without we can't make it. Yeah, happy to have questions.
I'm glad to hear that there were 16 kids today. That's amazing.
It was fun.
I'm excited to see that
We had
grow.
a proper kickball game.
There you go. Perfect. And Taylor Parker come.
Still just come
A
by.
couple. So
Yeah.
good luck and thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Let's
for
see.
getting plan.
I think the chief is next.
He's had an easy week.
You got an easy week? Anything on your report you'd like to?
The other thing I wanted to add is I don't typically add rest information too much at these meetings, but I just wanted to throw out a couple things, and I'm gonna be doing a couple of press releases tomorrow. One thing, one of my officers made a stop on July 5th. On the vehicle that was towing a trailer with no lights, ended up being a Sea-Doo type thing that was actually had just been reported stolen to the sheriff department, so led to methamphetamine arrests along with that, and sold the truck, and so I was pretty happy with that. Good job with that. And the big one I wanted to kind of bring up was on June 21st. We took a complaint from Canton Central School that someone had broken into the old Losey's garage down the bottom of the hill. So stole a John Deere Gator, a side-by-side, separate side-by-side, and a bunch of other gas-powered tools. The guys who worked the case, with the assistance of the sheriff department, the state police, and a lot of legwork, a lot of video checking from here to just about the other side of the county, and we ended up coming back with just about all of the equipment. We got the big items back, so the schools gonna have those back. That was a pretty good win for everybody. It's huge. I assisted on one of the big search warrants, and it was amazing. That we were satisfying cases for not just our department, but others as well. Stealing everything.
A treasure trove.
Treasure trove. I also wanted to just throw it out there too, for the media too. Everybody seems to be getting their side by sides.
Yeah.
Everything is being stolen lately, so. Please,
Hit that
throw
one.
it out there, just throw it out there. Don't leave your keys in these vehicles and tractors and everything. If that seems to be just an easy way for them to drive away.
Well, don't leave them on a trailer either. There's a lot of stuff disappearing that's not trailers.
There was one side by side that was stolen from the solar field just past the school, before our thefts happened. Luckily, they ran out of gas. They went down
Right.
Stiles Road and it was on
power line roadway, they'd already tried repainting it before it even got that
Yeah.
far.
Well, Canton Apples is still a missing
Yeah, there
tractor.
was some John Deere truck where they are.
Yeah.
The odds of finding that are probably still, depending on where it went. Well,
Yeah.
That's a huge win though for the school.
Yeah.
That's huge, because that's, a lot of times that stuff disappears and doesn't.
Yeah.
And their garage is locked. They broke the door, with a lock, got in, got all that stuff. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out. A lot of good work has been done.
Thank the team.
Much appreciated.
And, our new person will start in 2 weeks.
We start on August 1st. We will have about 13 days of riding around with us, so.
Yeah.
We'll start the academy as soon as possible on August 14th.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
And the historian is not here, so I think that concludes our reports. Need a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Committee reports, we can do that. Who has something they need to bring up?
I guess I'll just say that, communications and technology. We are rescheduling the website training. Stay tuned. I'm learning.
I was gonna say, just real quick on Complete Streets, we're looking at a few improvements at the Imagination Park and a few repairs out there, as long as working alongside Tim on some sidewalk plans, so and signage to go along Court Street as well.
Next.
Okay, sustainability, we just submitted for our clean energy community, $10,000 grant for some energy studies that will allow us to access another grant, hopefully, to complete items identified in the energy studies, and as well as some electronic landscaping equipment that went in today. It's should be sort of, well, we should know by early September. We're also gonna, because we have, completed the greenhouse gas emissions and then inventory, we're a climate smart community, we're close to achieving bronze status. That's been submitted and has been approved quickly as bronze status. Once we get that bronze status, we'll be eligible for another efficiency study, which is gonna complete that. And that was like a strategic decision because we could get more out of the $10,000 if we had more. We get a free energy study and we're gonna. See that you have the USDA grant on a different spot. I'll talk about it then. We didn't meet in July.
Yeah.
Oh, I would just say that the village got a $2,000 grant from Kinston Community Fund to fund the compost and pickup.
Perfect.
5 months. or
Well,
4 months,
before,
4 more months. That would take us about September.
Keep at it.
We're keeping it alive. That's all we can do.
I mean, I would just say, I mean, economic development, you know, we're gonna see the results of our labor in a minute, but, there's some results anyway. Yeah. But, we, have been meeting to support, the work of Lee's office, CFAs, the New York Forward Municipal Projects, et cetera, et cetera. So I've actually had kind of a busy month. Is that it? I'm missing something. What am I missing?
I don't know, probably be covered later.
Okay, good.
I would just say Megan gave a more comprehensive report than we could ever dream.
Okay.
water and kids.
Every part
Well, then we'll move on. I don't have any communications and information. Old business, 64 Main. You can see that now it's a hole in the ground. The building committee met with today and talked about the future of that spot. For the time being, our village superintendent and the town highway superintendent will coordinate on filling that, capping it as we discussed. Whatever the proper material. You want to try to protect it from the people being able to drive in there, so that's a problem, and we talk more about it. Drop it.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of completely protected barriers.
Well, I think
Well-
we'll have to have a conversation.
Yeah. That's fair.
See what's available. You can't start doing anything until they get their equipment out.
Yeah.
But I would
Yeah,
imagine
we'll
that's
wait for
coming
that.
soon. That's all I have on that. 19 Minor Street. We are moving along. The big piece on 19 Minor is that we had, we've been working on an RFP on who we want to, work with on developing that property. I think that, the group that has been working on it, on the final proposals is Anna and Beth and, or Barb, I'm sorry, Anna and Barb and, Lee. I don't know, what do you want to discuss?
I'll just start just a little bit on the process. So the closing was noon on Monday. We received 5 proposals. We had a follow, yesterday we spent the day having follow-up interviews from all 5. One proposal did not address the whole scope of the RFP, and so it was not competitive. And of the remaining 4, 2 really separated themselves from the final.
Yeah, so, we are recommending, that, we select the Sino group. They have, recently, completed, redeveloped and managed a similar project, the community down the street. With very similar stakeholder groups. So they've already done a project similar to what it will take to do this one. They presented us with a design concept that clearly reflects that they deeply researched our community, our plans, the planning documents that we've already done, as well as, meeting the requirements of the RFP. Their design concept develops the plaza in such a way that it integrates it into our downtown and creates amenities for the community. And in addition, they have really deep experience in accessing housing funds, which will be important to ensuring the success of this project. They also have a lot and demonstrate that they have the experience and are prepared to be flexible in terms of providing for the diversity of housing options that we have in need in our community. And that will be competitive in terms of achieving that funding. They have a fully integrated company structure, so designing, building, and managing are all in-house. Which we thought was a plus for them. And we did seek some recommendations and came back with, glowing reviews. We were really, I guess I would just say, on the whole, we were really pleased to receive the proposals that we did. We were pleased that it came down to a somewhat difficult decision between
Not
our
somewhat.
shortlist. Yeah, so somewhat was maybe underselling the difficulty level. You know, this was a really big decision, but we, you know, we really feel very confident that this group will get the project done. And that they will do so in coordination with our community partners and with our community. And then it will be great. So that's our recommendation.
That's all.
I will say that, I know at 6 o'clock, they were still working hard on the recommendation, because I think that, it's my understanding that they had a lot to think about, and, they did the research they needed to pick the one that they did. And I'm confident that they did what they needed to do. And I support their decision.
Could you spell anything?
I just had a quick question. Would be the advantage of pushing it forward this meeting and not tabling it till next meeting?
The
Well-
opportunity to apply for the New York Forward money, to submit a project for that. Both of the top two who are interested in doing that, and since that closes on the 31st, still only gives them 2 weeks to do that. And when we applied for New York Forward, the Midtown Plaza project was a big part of our application, so. It was hard, we talked about tabling it, but we feel like we owe it to them to be able to do that. So. That was the rationale.
Questions?
Vecino, VECINO.
I'm very pleased with the process and the number of people that we engaged, and I think that's all we need, you know, I'm proud of that. Proud of how we were able to engage a significant group. You know, we talked to our attorney about the process and how important that was. That we went through this, so I think it's produced results, and yeah, I support where we're at.
Well, I appreciate all the hours and work that went into the interviews and the evaluation, and I know both of you well, and Lee too, you didn't leave a stone unturned, I'm sure. And the fact that we've got one recommendations, I think that that's a really good sign as well. And I do like the whole in-house piece where they have multiple sectors that they deal with, so that they're well versed in a project like this.
It's also about the accountability, so that one side is not, they're not pointing to somebody else. You know, they have to solve the problem because they're it. Right.
So I would like a motion to accept the recommendation of, Barb, you know, the Casino Group.
Well, I hate to move on stuff that they have done, because I know.
But also that might be a little.
I would love to move forward with this, and recognize that there's been a lot of work done in the last several days.
Okay, need a second,
Second.
okay? Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed?
Oppose.
Okay. Motion passed. Next item, New York Forward, I think that, Lee has, you know, she mentioned New York Forward and the progress we're making. Call for projects is out. And, our next meeting will be, I think, August, what did we say, August 13th? And then, we have a couple meetings scheduled. We meet every other week anyway, so not this morning. We're moving forward. It's all very positive so far, so we'll see how it all develops. Okay, next item is report on the sewer project by Barton and Judas. Every month they provide us with, a recap of where they're at. You know, expenses, that type of thing. So you get a chance of where they're going here. I don't know if there's any questions or comment on any of this, but, it's there, it's been in your, in the drive, you look at it. I think they're making progress, as Tim said, they're, you know, they looked at the outfall. Design is continuing. Looks like they're on track for a preliminary design, 60% preliminary. By the end of the year, they should have final drawings and specs to DEC. We have not gotten EFC's closing yet. We're still waiting for that. On the financing. We provided information back and forth. We haven't been able to. Next is, I added this because of, we received the official notification by, New York State DOT that we were not awarded the TAP grant. That was the application, the grant application for, sidewalks, with the hope that that might help mitigate some of the expense for drainage work and road work that would need to happen on Cleveland. As you know, there was some resistance by some of the residents for that work to be done, and they didn't like the idea of sidewalks on their street. I think this kind of puts that to bed anyway, so we will have to proceed with what we're doing with drainage up there. See how that will work. So
Would we, in the future, try to apply for that again?
I don't know. I guess we'd have to have that conversation.
I mean, given this conversation that we had tonight, and this latest storm, maybe people would, be more
Well,
receptive.
curbs would be something that we would consider on our own. Sidewalks, you know, they have some preconceived notions.
Yeah.
And then they're concerned also about how properties drain to the street. They make a case for keeping the water in the street. So, you know, that'll all be part of what I think we put together.
Sure.
When we, work with partners.
Okay.
I think we're gonna, debrief with the DOT and try to get some sense of the, reasons that our application may have fallen short. I will say that, one of the things, I think it was Mark, mentioned was that there were very few projects funded in the North Country.
No.
Yeah, so.
Good to know.
More.
Okay, new business. First is authorized payment of vouchers and transfer of funds.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Did BC approve recreation employees? I did attach a list, and Megan had those employees also on her report. Those are for recreation aides that
Recreation tenants.
recreation attendant. I want to make sure I get it right.
Some of them are continuing from the winter, but they're, winter ends.
Okay. And you have the list there with all the rates of pay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? There's a approval for a fire department member, Brandon O'Shea.
No shame. So.
Second.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone abstaining?
Abstain.
Thank you.
It's gonna be great.
Let's see, next is the resolution for the LWRP grant. Well, that's been circulated. I don't know if you have any questions, thoughts, concern.
I mean, basically, I think we're applying, you know, this action supports our application to the LWRP program to keep going with the work on Willow Island. And this is a really good funding source for us, and there are some pieces in this year's call that seem particularly appropriate, so we are hopeful. So moved. Second.
All in favor?
I,
Anyone opposed? Okay. Next item is discuss USDA composting agreement.
so that's kind of morphing into a bigger thing. Because I think the minimum award is such a high dollar amount that they're trying to get it to be a little more regional. So we had a meeting a Zoom last week, Thursday, and I'm watching tomorrow. To explore some avenues of like to expand the people involved, the entities involved. So it's a work in progress. I'm not committed to anything.
So we're gonna stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. You'll definitely have an update by the next meeting because it's due.
Okay,
We'll have more to come, but it's, the minimum award is a lot of money, so. You know, we have to, you're asking for a lot of money. And that's.
What is the award?
I don't actually know the. But there's more than our.
okay, the next item is a resolution updating our secra for St. Lawrence Suds. You know what happened with St. Lawrence Suds? The building, once they got into that, they discovered some serious problems that turned that structure that they were trying to rehabilitate into a liability. It became dangerous. We had originally did a secret for, it was a type 2 action. And that was based on what type of work was going to be done there. Because the building was going to be torn down and a new building built, on the advice of our attorney, we felt that we needed to at least address the secret and redo the secret for this project. It's very similar because type 2 action discusses replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of the structure. The structure is going to be in the same place. You know, it's actually going to be smaller. The footprint is a little bit smaller. The total square footage is a little bit smaller. So this meets all of the standards that is required for a type 2 action. And what I need is a vote by this board to determine that this is a type 2 action. I've circulated this to you all. I hope that you've all read it. Made sure that our attorney read it, and
More important than us.
he passed his judgment. Said it's legally appropriate.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Aye.
opposed?
I'm looking forward to it. Oh,
Sure thing.
Okay,
lots of good luck to them.
last item I added here was the discuss the Hometown Heroes Banner Program. Myself and Mary Ann have gone to up on Governor Street and talked to the vets. At the VFW, they're proposing that we get involved in our community or communities in the Hometown Heroes program. You probably see banners throughout other communities. So they've approached us, would like to start doing something. It's more of it's a townwide thing. We don't know if there'll be some of it done maybe in Hamilton and Morley and Coyotes, things like that. It depends on what people want. But I wanted to fill you in on program. They are looking for municipal support, a lot of the communities that do this now, use the village clerk's office or the town clerk's office, for the application committee, the payment committee. And then they handle the order, and the clerk doesn't handle the ordering, but the organization does. It's kind of a central spot. Mary Ann is going to ask the town clerk to do it because it's a townwide project. They would have to create a separate account for it. We still haven't determined who will be placing the hardware on poles. You know, I've talked to Tim some. There are some other possibilities from for volunteers. They have contacts with some tree companies that we are doing some legwork on liability, making sure we're all square on who can do what. Work is done is proper. I think that it's done in many ways, different ways, and many different. Typically, these flags would be up from Memorial Day through Veterans Day. And they come down the hardware state. I've been in contact with National Grid. I'm waiting for a return phone call. They need to clear that up. They're all over the place. I don't think they have that. But I want to make sure I reach out to the right thing. It's fully funded by the person that orders something. It's on the VFW and that group to establish the rules that apply. I don't want to be involved in enforcement of who gets to have their.
Who's on the
Who's on the
ban?
ban.
So do you envision that they submit the application to us, we just give them to the VFW?
Yeah.
And they take it from there?
Yeah, there's a process where, there's a central point for picking up an application, dropping an application off and payment. And then they would.
But the
handle all
rest of it is them.
And then placement of the flags that, we still have to work those details
Right.
out. As Tim and I talked that, it's like, okay, what don't you want us to do to get that done?
Right.
So, those are things that we say. They have a workload that they have to be concerned about, so. But I wanted to update you on the things that are coming at us. They're going about it in the right way. We know we can't put them on our streetlights downtown. And because of, the flowers and flags we put up, and they just don't have the room. So they're looking at other streets, Governor Street coming into the village, maybe outer Main Street going out of the village. Possibly Upstate Street, or Riverside Drive. So they're looking at some things. There's, any number of possibilities. So just wanted to bring it.
What are they hoping to?
They'd like to be ready to go next year. So we have another meeting scheduled. We've met twice and we have another meeting scheduled next month. That's all I have, unless you have questions. And with that, I have public comment. Going once, going twice. Okay. I have a need for executive session. It won't take long. And it has to do with personnel and, legal question. Legal concern. So, motion?
Mike,
Second? Yeah, you can stay. We'll get everybody out. Well, you're the only
okay,
one left.
I just, before we went into executive session, I think I was supposed to abstain from the recreation employees approval too, so if Sally could just let the record reflect that. I think he was on that list too, so I might have blew past me and listening to the audio, but just make sure you had me down as abstain for the record.
Make sure that's noted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Jim, would you stay?
Thanks for hanging in there with us, y'all.
I'm good.
Good night.
Casino group, where are they from?
I think they have on the website. There's a post that was working for the state and the top safety. Stop.
Stop.